Welcome to Sweet Soul Synergy TV. I'm your host Stephanie, and I'm here with my co-host Charlene.
Hi, Steph.
And we're here with our good friend Shane, visiting us from California. And I'd love to read her intro off of her CD because it's so good. After serving her country on 9/11 as CISM's first responder and team leader foot soldier at Ground Zero, New York City, she promised herself her responding days were over. Well, no matter how she tried, that never happened. Shane realized she's still that same person who was born and raised to help and love humanity. Welcome, Shane. We're so happy you're here.
Oh, it's great to see you again. It's been about a year, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. I really miss all my family and friends here in New Jersey, and it's been a really long haul being in LA and working on my music, honing my talents even further, and I'm just really glad to be here with you guys.
And we're really happy to have you here too as well. I know that you've been in California for about 3 or 4 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what made you move to California?
Well, I was a responder, of course, we mentioned that, and part of my therapy was to find something that would make me happy inside, because I was all tore up inside when I responded by all the horrific things that we had to endure and go through to get our state of New York back on its feet and our nation back on its feet. So our motto at that time was whatever it takes. So now to heal myself, I had to do whatever it takes. And that was with the help of doctors and therapists. It was going back to my music, and my own music saved my life. So I picked up where I left off with my music, and I started winning awards, and I became a Grammy member and then a voting member, and I had a lot of opportunities come to me that happened to be in LA. So I had to finally move to LA instead of traveling back and forth. Mm-hmm. It was, kind of hard on my body, and so I moved there, and I was working on this album, and I put everything into expressing my love for my country and for the world, actually, not just America, because people are people no matter where you go.
True.
And I saw that when I responded at Ground Zero, because so many people around the world came to our aid, and that really impressed me. So I put all that stuff into turning it into love, and that's where I came up with the title for my album. It's the Freedom Album, and it's about faith and courage and responsibility, and it's about peace and love. So
It's really
here I
wonderful.
am.
Shane, can you go into, because we were talking about this a little bit before, about that experience as a first responder. Can you talk a little bit about that, as much as you're comfortable talking about, just to kind of set the ground for this album?
Okay, so when I was called to New York, I was officially called a team leader, and I had to respond with the capacity of being a foot soldier at the Mound, and my director was in Journal Square, and the only connection I had was a lifeline, was my radio. And when I got to that site, all that I could see is just the devastation, and I didn't know what we were going to do or how we were going to do it, but I had a faith in God and the rescuers that were responding. I had to activate and dispatch many of those rescuers to different parts of that site, and it was a recovery operation, and I made sure that we found anything that we could to identify these people that were missing. That was the main thing, with a lot of heart and a lot of prayer. So I had to be strong for the men, because we're all human. I don't know where I got the fortitude to do that. I know that was a God-given thing, to be strong for them. And the stronger I was, the more we were able to get things done. So if you can imagine, I'm still going through a lot of healing and therapy to still surviving that.
I know you mentioned to me at another interview a few years ago that you also suffered some physical maladies.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of health issues from actually being on the Mound for that length of time.
Well, it blew out my gallbladder, and it seemed like my gallbladder was protecting my other organs, so the toxins that I was breathing, and we didn't have equipment or anything, we just responded, and I had a hard hat. I'm laughing now, it's not funny.
No, not
There
really.
was
No
there was
protection.
debris follow. It's like it was just a cloud of a mile radius of just white powder and dust and particles and asbestos, and there was aerosolized metal from the screeching, screaming, fiery steel. It was such a hot fire, for the buildings, and I had to also get sinus surgery, and they had to actually scoop out my sinuses. There was so many things that they found there that was not normal, and
I think you mentioned that you also had a piece of metal that was in your eye that
yeah,
worked its way out years later.
Wow.
yeah.
Right? It's just crazy
And I had to
things that
get
you wouldn't even
cataract
think of.
surgery.
Yeah.
And I, every once in a while, I have there's a piece of metal that comes out. It's like a copper
Like a
wire
fragment.
type thing.
Wow.
That
Mhm.
so I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from, but nobody seems to know what to expect in the future, or there was nothing like this that you can imagine, or to throw somebody in there with.
You had training though, but no protection, and you
Training.
really didn't know what was happening until
Right.
you got there.
I was trained to quell a situation, like calm down someone that's going through post-traumatic stress, or a rescuer that was like a firefighter that would go into a burning building and then carry out an infant, only to find that the infant was not alive, and they had to deal with that, or cops that were suicidal, or rescuers, like all types of things like that that come in the line of duty, because at the time I was a state police officer with the Department of Corrections in the state of New Jersey. So I was going through some things at the time with my peers, because of two things at the time. They chose me because I was female and I was white, and so it was a predominantly male, black situation in institutions. But I did my job well, and it infuriated them, and I just stuck to my training and I got through it. And so I don't know.
So this experience, because I think about this, even having lost my mom and what I went through on a very small scale, certainly nothing that you've experienced with what you did, but just the emotion from actual, trauma that you're experiencing. So you're dealing with people who are going through this trauma, but now you've experienced this. So it's on an emotional level, it's on
Physical.
a spiritual level, it's on a physical level, it's mind, body, and spirit completely immersed in this. And then, as you have done with the work that you've done, bringing yourself, and still doing, bringing yourself to a place of peace because of that, that's really incredible. And I know that there are millions of people who felt that on that day. And so I know we can't imagine how you felt on that day, so.
I'll tell you how devastating it was. It scars you for life, I feel. I didn't realize until I recently had to go for help with PTSD, and I'm like, oh, I don't have this. And so many times I
Most
had
people
to,
say that.
I was
don't
trained to
realize it.
respond
Yeah.
to people that said
With
that.
that, yes.
What? And here it's me, and my director died the day after we closed the command center.
Oh, wow.
He never woke up. He died of a heart attack, and he had cancer all through him. That was shocking. So it was just me, and me with the story of, and I had all the information from beginning to end. And okay, I get lost. It's PTSD. I didn't realize all these years the reason why I don't dream anymore, because I know I don't dream anymore, but thank God I still can write songs. It comes out when I'm awake, is because I have PTSD and night terrors, but I didn't quite understand that they were nightmares, because I'm just reliving
Over and
the
over
horror,
again.
and I'm like, it's not a nightmare, it really happened.
Yeah.
So there, I just finally got help at UCLA in Los Angeles with a team of doctors who have this TMS therapy, which is magnetic charges that they actually put into your brain, and it's quite uncomfortable, but they induce the flashbacks, and you start talking and reliving it, and then with the magnetic charges, when your brain shorts out that and stops at that trauma, like a skip in the record, if you remember records,
Yes.
the album, a skip, it can't go further,
Right.
it's just stuck and stuck.
Yeah.
It forces your brain to connect and continue forward.
Right. It kind of
Instead-
railroads over that.
Well,
Yeah.
Then I was starting to realize, but that happened in 2001. And then finally, by the fourth treatment, it's like, but that's not right here. How did I not? I couldn't separate. It was always around me.
Yeah.
And I always had believed in God and see angels and things like that, which normal people don't. But that enabled me to survive so much and do what I do. So I just thought it was the next dimension, but I needed all those extra angels to guide me to get help, get my spirit back inside me and be able to do what I do. And also, thank God I was able to finish this album and bring my love and my art and my God-given talents forward and put it in words. So my songs they touch hearts, and it's my expression, a vibration that connects.
And I'm a firm believer in the power of music and how music can heal. Not only heal yourself on an emotional, spiritual, and physical level, but it can also heal others as well. And it's very, very important that musicians understand that and create with that intent.
Right.
I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah, Stephanie, when I had met Charlene, that's how we connected immediately.
Okay.
Similar to meeting you, on different levels you can connect with people, but her and I were able to almost finish each other's sentences.
We still do that.
Yeah, and we also, when we sit at the piano together, we don't know what we're creating, but I'll either do the bass part and she's doing and we just have fun. But it doesn't mean that she had to have been living in the same home or with the same friends or brought up the same way. It's a heart to heart, it's
Absolutely.
a spirit, it's a gift.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback on what you said about being creative, I think that the things that happen to you and the experiences that happen to you are really the driving force of creativity. I think if you can channel them properly and channel them correctly, and some people do get lost and they can't do that, and that's okay. I mean, you don't have to do that, but I think if you can, and I know that for my own self because I write books, and and my creativity comes out a little bit differently. I do write music, but certainly not to the degree that you both write music. But it's definitely, I've found even on the book that I'm working on about my experience, that it's painful. It's the most painful thing that you'll ever do, but it may be the best work that you've ever done.
It's also personal. I find the music that I create, and I'm sure I can speak for Shane and you as well when you're writing, it's personal. This is not something that is very light. It's coming from deep within somewhere, somehow. And you have to you feel compelled to get these messages out or get this music out. And it's like you're being directed to do this from a higher power.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. So when you're talented like that, you don't explain anything, because when you start, people be like, oh yeah, that's nice. But when we met, it was funny. She started explaining to me, and I'm like, I already know what you're going to say.
So I said, yeah, I know you know.
I'm feeling it, I'm seeing it, and she's singing
know.
the song, and the beat goes on.
Right. Let's show the cover of the CD, in case people would like to see it, and it's called Freedom.
Freedom. And on the back it says freedom with responsibility.
Yes.
We came from a society of do your own thing and do whatever you want. Well, here we are, out at work.
Right.
Freedom with responsibility. you have to care about others, love one another and help one another no matter what.
Yes.
I believe that too, and that's a great way to end this segment of our show. So I hope you'll tune in next time because we will have Shane back on soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.